நிமிஷம் லைவ் போய்க்கிட்டோங்க, அதுக்கப்புறம்
லைவ் ப்ரிப்பேர் ஆயிட்டு இருக்குதுங்க சார்.
ஓகே,
ஒரு
சரிங்க.
2 செகண்ட்.
வந்துருச்சுன்னு நினைக்கிறேன் சுபு. மீட்டிங் இஸ் நவ லைவ் ஆன்
செட்டிங் அப் யுவர் மீட்டிங் வருது. டன். வந்துருச்சுங்க.
வந்துருச்சுங்களா? எனக்கு ஏதோ எச்சரிக்கை கொடுத்துட்டே இருக்கு. வணக்கம். ஏர்லி இண்டியன்ஸ் என்ற ஒரு சுவையான ஒரு அறிவியல் பார்வை அந்த நூலை வந்து கடந்த சில வாரங்களாக நாங்கள் அதை பற்றி பேசிக்கொண்டிருக்கிறோம். அதனுடைய இறுதி அத்தியாயம். அதை பற்றி பேசுவதற்காக இன்று முனைவர் அரசு செல்லையா அவர்கள் வருகிறார். அவரை அறிமுகப்படுத்த உமா மகேஸ்வரி பன்னீர்செல்வம் டாலஸ் டெக்சஸ் வட அமெரிக்காவிலிருந்து இணைகிறார். உமா மகேஸ்வரி பன்னீர்செல்வம் ஒரு தமிழ் பேச்சாளர், ஊடக பங்களிப்பாளர், வானொலி தொகுப்பாளர், தமிழ் நிகழ்ச்சி தொகுப்பாளர். பேச்சுக்கலையை நம் அடுத்த தலைமுறைக்கு கொண்டு செல்வதில் ஆர்வமுடையவர். என்னாலும் தமிழ் தொண்டாற்ற எண்ணும் தமிழ் ஆர்வலர். அவரை அடுத்ததாக பேச அழைக்கிறேன். உமா, நீங்க மியூட்ல இருக்கீங்க.
நன்றி மணி ஐயா. அனைவருக்கும் வணக்கம். ஏர்லி இண்டியன்ஸ் என்ற நூல் மதிப்புரை நிகழ்விற்கு அனைவரையும் வருக வருக என்று வரவேற்கின்றோம். இந்த நூலின் ஒரு பகுதியாக சாப்டர் 4 த லாஸ்ட் மைக்ரன்ஸ் த ஆர்யா அண்ட் எபிலாக் என்ற தலைப்பின் கீழ் நம்மிடம் இன்று உரையாற்ற வருபவர் பேராசிரியர் அரசு செல்லையா அவர்கள். ஐயாவை பத்தி சில விடயங்களை சொல்லிட்டு நம்ம இந்த நிகழ்ச்சிக்குள்ள போலாம். பேராசிரியர் திரு அரசு செல்லையா அவர்கள் மூலக்கூறு உயிரியல், நுண்ணுயிரியல் துறைகளில் ஆய்வு செய்தவர். கல்லூரி, பல்கலைக்கழக அளவில் பல ஆண்டுகளாக பயிற்றுவித்தவர். தற்போது பால்டிமோர் மேரிலாந்து பல்கலைக்கழகத்தில் பேராசிரியராக பணிபுரிகிறார். கடந்த 35 ஆண்டுகளாக அமெரிக்காவில் பல்வேறு தமிழ் அமைப்புகளில் பணியாற்றி இருக்கிறார். முக்கியமான சிலவற்றை மற்றும் நான் இங்கு குறிப்பிட விரும்புகின்றேன். நிறுவனர் மிசௌரி தமிழ் பள்ளி, நிறுவனர் தலைவர் மிசௌரி தமிழ் சங்கம், மேனாள் தலைவர் வட அமெரிக்க தமிழ்ச்சங்க பேரவை ஃபெட்னா, நிறுவன தலைவர் அமெரிக்க தமிழ் கல்விக் கழகம். பேராசிரியர் அரசு செல்லையா தொடர்ந்து தமிழ் மொழி, தமிழ் கல்வி, அறிவியல் பார்வை, சுற்றுச்சூழல் காப்பிலும் தன்னார்வலராக செயல்பட்டு வருகின்றார். அவரை பற்றிய ஒரு சிறு தொகுப்பைத்தான் நான் இப்பொழுது உங்களுக்கு அளித்தேன். வாங்க ஐயா, நாம் நிகழ்ச்சிக்குள் செல்லலாம். வருக திரு அரசு செல்லையா அவர்கள்.
வணக்கம் உமா, எல்லாருக்கும் வணக்கம். This talk will be in English, but I would like to start that this JOC 24 study group is possible because of Mr. Manivannan, Dr. Bama Muthuramalingam, and Professor Raj Mutharasan. It is mainly their energy, enthusiasm, and scholarship that makes this group going. And above all, those who are in the group, in the WhatsApp group, and those who attend this study sessions, already Dr. Bama has given a lecture, and 3 chapters, one of the chapters given by her and Mr. Manivannan and Professor Raj Mutharasan, and 4th chapter, last migrant, Arya. That's a topic that Tony Joseph covers. And I should say a few things about Tony Joseph. This is a very unique book. Let me start from acknowledgement. The acknowledgement runs for about 47 pages. I read the book in the Kindle and listened to it in Audible, and 10-15 minutes. And I recommend, if you have not read the book, first read the acknowledgement. The reason I'm saying is he spent 6 years on this book, on his curiosity, his time he spends. And he meets with experts on different fields. Of course, genetics, archaeology, linguistics, history, human genetics, philology, epigraphy, experts in the cutting edge. Few people, at least, he discusses at length each paper. One paper he takes 2 months to read. That you can understand in the seriousness he puts it in this effort. And 4 other people he discussed. He personally meets with them, not only studies. He personally meets with them and discuss in detail. Professor Airavadam Mahadevan on epigraphy, Professor M.K. Dalgalikar, archaeology, Professor M.N. Mishra, archaeology, geneticist, Professor Larji Singh, he discussed it. Ramila Tapar, of course, we know about her. Dr. Bibi Lal, and famous Professor Michael Wurzel, Sanskrit professor, and David Reich, geneticist. They're all on the cutting edge. Also, the 2 DNA that he mainly focuses, of course, DNA sequencing of the ancient human. It's a difficult job, and it was awarded Nobel Prize for sequencing. It is not very easy. The DNA is fragmented to put together and sequence it. And on this, Martin Richards, famous, globally well-known for mitochondrial DNA, maternally inherited, and Peter Underhill on Y chromosome is also very famous. And of course, Tangaraj in Hyderabad CCMB. Just I said only 1/5 of the names, famous names. Of course, these names are well known, and he directly goes there and meets with them, discuss 4 or 5 times. Lucky he wrote, he published a book 2019 and 20. He updates it. Up to the research papers up until 2018, he takes into account. In all the fields, many discussions. He says, but for the discussions, by merely reading the book, reading the articles, reading the publications may not be sufficient. With this, let's go to the தெரியுதுங்களா?
தெரியுதுங்கய்யா. ஃபுல் ஸ்கிரீன் மட்டும் போட்டு.
Okay, sorry. Right. Chapter 4, of course, topics of discussion is chapter 4, the final chapter, last migrants, the Aryas, and epilogue. Of course, in 30 minutes or so, it cannot be covered. I strongly recommend you read the book, and you will understand this is a very, very unique book, and we are very happy that he is going to be with us next week to answer our questions. And Dr. Bama kindly arranged, organized this. Okay. What's the outline? It certainly, I cannot cover the whole book. Like the chapter is 60 pages, like was mentioned in the last week. So a little bit of introduction. Out of India is out of reckoning. That is Aryan in migration. I say migration. It came in, not so much it went out to Europe and all. Because in Europe, Indo-European language is almost 95%. In India, it is 70 to 75%. We'll discuss that. Genetics, signature of area, and steppe migration, step by step. It's all steppe region. There's a vast region. From there, they are coming in areas, and there is a mix of population. A lot of population genetics is being done. Let me not go into that. It's too much details. And Yamania is another group. Is also mix of steppe people and Yamania, hunter-gatherers, Yamania. And they move to the Europeans. So we will discuss and parallels between South Asia and Europe. Okay, so they came to Aryans came to South Asia as well as Europe, and Harappans and Vedas. Of course, we will discuss it. So it was previously discussed by Professor Raj Mutharasan and Mr. Manimenan and Dr. Bama. And Harappans and Vedas, horse sense on Harappa. Well, horse is there. It's an incredible evidences. So I will just highlight certain main aspects and conclude that and welcome questions from you. Vehicle burials at Chellaih, a multi-source civilization. That finally, that's the epilogue. This is the centenary year of Indus Valley discovery. Of course, India's culture is Vedic culture. There is no controversy when it's discussed, it's proven that the Homo sapiens moved from Africa, out of Africa, into India and all over. That's the first migration by early Indians. Before that, there is Homo erectus and different species of Homo genus. We have to be very careful. They are early Indians, or that's different. They did not mix. They cannot mix. A little bit of mixing happened, 2% or so, with Neanderthalensis, but that's not today's topic of discussion. And so out of India is out of reckoning. Indo-European language is spoken by about 3/4 of Indians, 40% of the world. Of course, Europe, you take Europe, it's 90% or so. How did Indo-European languages become dominant in India? Option 1, it came to India sometimes in the past. Option 2, it originated in India and moved to other parts of the world. No genetic signature of emigration from Central Asia to Western Europe. Only true tribal groups have Indian maternal ancestry, European Roma and American Gypsies. They moved 1500 BCE. So by the time Aryans migrated to India and settled, so out of India is out of question. And this is just briefly, it just says R1A M417 is a haplogroup DNA haplogroup that is Aryans split into two. One is R1A Z93 and another one is R1A Z282. That's seen in all over Europe, and Z1A R1A Z93 is found in all over in India. One interesting line that Tony Joseph mentions is that one place at different times, different place, same time, that fossils are taken and ancient DNA extracted, analyzed. Many papers have been published since 2015, 2010, 14, as early as late as 18. This book is very much updated and fairly conclusive. SEPI migration, step by step, DNA trajectory. So SEPI is the Caucasus region between the Black Sea and Caspian Sea. Kazakh SEPI pastoralist moved southward towards Turkmenistan, Uzbekistan, and Tajikistan around 2100 BC. Then they moved further into South Asia through BMAC. BMAC is a region, Bactria Mariana Archaeological Complex. They have civilization that thrived between 2300 BCE and 1700 BCE. There are evidences and DNA evidence and pottery and things like that. And during 2000 to 1500, they moved through the BMAC. They have evidence in BMAC region about SEPI Aryans. In 2000, the evidences are dated to 2000 to 1500 BC. BMAC complex did not have steppe pastoralist DNA presence from 2100 to 1700 BCE. Okay, that's how they moved south, and up until 1700 BCE, they couldn't find steppe population DNA. 11 ancient DNA from Sota belonging to 3300 and 2000 BCE had DNA of first Indians and Zagros agriculturists. Zagros mountain is the crescent region, is the main agriculturists. From there, you could have moved to Merga and downwards. That happened. And Rakhiari ancient DNA did not have steppe pastoral DNA, which belongs to 2600 BCE. Rakhiari ancient DNA also couldn't find the DNA of steppe pastoralist. 86 DNA samples from the Swat Valley in Pakistan had about 20% steppe ancestry in addition to ASI, ancient South Indian ancestry. These samples belong to 1200 to 800 BCE. Mass migration of steppe pastoralists lead to the spread of Indo-European language. What the whole slide says is, before 2100, there is no migration of steppe pastoralists or Aryans into India. And you can see that Yamania is where this steppe pastoralists are mixed with Yamania in this region, and there are 2, 3, or 4 mixes of not Aryans or pure or anything like that. They are a mix. And this 3500 BC, say Yamania, this is a Sumerian, Akis, Yamania to here. They are slowly moving to the Western Europe. Beaker people. This is Beaker people in sense, beaker. So inverted bell, how it will look like. That kind of a pottery is found. They're called bell beaker people. Wherever that evidence is found, that's what said. See, after that, these are genetic evidence. After BMAC, I said that region, and further they are now getting into Indus Valley, the region. Now this is complete 500 BC. This is 1500 BC. See, 2500 BC, they are not anywhere near Indus Valley. Okay. This is proven by genetic evidences. Now, who are the Yamania? Yamania is very important because from here only these people moved to Europe, and furthermore, this is a very important point is that Tony Joseph mentions that there are people, all the people are moving all the time. In 2000 BC and all, the population is, for example, Indus Valley is a very vast region, and the population is 1 million or 2 million, population of one city. Okay, so moving and forming settlements is not difficult. So Yamanias are people moving from Caucasus to Steppe. Okay, Yamania culture is a result of influx as equal ancestry with Caucasians and hunter-gatherers of Steppe. And Kurgan's burial mounds were made by Yamania culture people. 3 important technical innovations: horse, wheel, wagon. We will repeatedly come to this in this book. He discusses a lot. Horse, wheel, and wagon. That they need to move fast from one region to another region. Remember, they are not. They are very mobile people. They're not settlement or city dwellers. The one advantage, major advantage, is they can move very fast, and that movement also caused by drought in steppe region. But because of the horse, wheel, and wagon, water can be transported from one region to another, cause their survival. That again, the movement to other places was caused by drought. able to carry water from different places, resulted in huge agricultural population, and started trading to create wealth and power. Yamaniya moved to Europe around 3000 BC. In Germany, they blended cardware. Cardware is a pottery in which repeatedly bound with a card. In Britain, they replaced the people following bell beaker, inverted bell shaped beaker were found in this region. Yemeni expansions were male-centered. Again, this will come to all the whether Genghis Khan or nomadic culture, fast movers, and there are two, three reasons. They outcompeted local males for mate, or they have some inadvertently bring some diseases. So the females were more immunologically stronger than men. So the men died out fast. The women were left. So 2-3 reasons are considered. But they are warrior-like people. They are fast movers. They are mobile. We'll discuss that a little later. Their political and social power were more powerful. Okay? Archaeological genetic evidence confirm steppe Yemeniya culture arrived in India after the decline of Harappan. This is very important. He goes at length. Harappans and Aryan culture who moved in are distinct. Initially, it was thought that because of invading migrating Aryans, they had a tussle with the local Dravidians or Harappans, and then that became the disintegration of Harappan civilization. That's not true. Of course, Harappa was basically from the agriculturalist Zagros Mountains coming in and mixed with ancient Indians who moved 65,000 years back, and the second migration of Zagros mountain area to this happened 9,000 or 8,000, 7,000, that ballpark regions. At that time, agriculture was also happening in Harappan region or India. So it's not exactly they brought in agriculture, but those who can in question and answer session, you can answer that. So this is, of course, there are other Tibeto, Burman migration and all, but this it calls final migration because this is genetically their impact. Aryans and Zagros mountain agriculturalists mixing with local ancient Indians. So ancient Indians lived for too long, 55,000 years, all over India, spread. That their gene are with everybody. And so when the city civilization, Harappa, Mohenjo-daro, there's a vast billions of acres, millions of miles, square miles. This is built in several places. We have known in Journey of a Civilization, Mr. Balakrishnan's book. And so coming back to Yemeniya, Yemeniya's expansion, male-centered. This read the book. This is fascinating. Not only in India, but wherever it's a mobile culture, fast-moving culture, kind of a warrior-like culture, they carry the day, and the local males are not eliminated, but mainly decreased. This because their Y DNA, the sequencing of Y DNA has varied so much, whereas the mitochondrial DNA of their maternally inherited and passed from mother to daughter, that has conserved a lot. Okay, so this is a Yemeniya migration. This is the region here. This Uzbekistan and coming back to ancestral North India. This migrants mingled with ancient Indians and became ancestral North Indians. we said Aryans, and one group came to south, they become ancestral South Indians. So path which this ancestry arrived to South Asia is uncertain. Of course, DNA evidence, archaeology evidence, together they deduct this pathway and all the way to Europe and England. Again, different cultures are formed by the migration of people. Like last slides here, and Vedic culture, and here this Harappan Mohenjo-daran culture predates Vedic culture. We'll see that in a little later. And again, Anatolian farmers moved to Europe, and Europe, he says that 2-3 major migrations, and the population is completely and mostly changed to twice. In America, before the Europeans come in, and 3 migrations happened. So all over the world, migrations occur. So Western Europe and South Asia. So Anatolian farmers in West Asia moved to Europe around 10,500, 5,000 BC. Anatolian farmers, residential hunter-gatherers, mixed and produced many Neolithic cultures. Steppe pastoralists mixed with the local inhabitants and produced corded ware culture, bell beaker culture, and many more. That happened in Europe. And percentage of original hunter-gatherers, present-day Europe is single digit. 94% of Western Europeans speak Indo-European language, whereas in India, 70-75%. Basque is the only non-Indo-European language spoken in Western Europe. South Asia, Zagoroian herders, Iranian farmers came to South Asia around 7,000 BC. Iranian farmers and first Indians moved and produced Harappan civilization. Steppe pastoralists mixed with Harappans to create ancient North Indian genetic lineage. Steppe pastoralists is Aryans. First Indians still constitute about 50-65% of most population group. No matter what caste, what region, what language they speak in India, 50-65% genetically, they have the first Indians who came 65,000 years ago out from Africa to India. 75% of Indians speak Indo-European language. Dravidian languages are spoken by about 20% of Indians. Decline of Harappa is mainly, I don't want to go to details, mainly this because a dot. He jokingly says Indra decimated the population like Vedic verses, and he says Varuna is responsible. Tony Joseph jokingly says Varuna is reason the long drought that they have to abandon the city culture and moved out. And he says after the Harappan Mohenjo-daro city culture, next city civilization to occur, urban civilization to occur, it took 1,500 years or so. So Harappans and Veda, early Rig Veda and Harappan civilization has lots of gap. Harappan culture, no representation of gods is found in Harappan civilization, very unique, as we all know. Has many ubiquitous seal scripts and great bath. Phallus worship is much found in Harappan civilization. That is it. Harappans has association with Mesopotamians and even took sites during their war. This is Proto-Dravidian, Elamite. This also, he says, Tony Joseph says, when he says that first Indians arrived to India 65,000 years ago, there's no controversy, people shrug, and when experts say Proto-Dravidian languages are connected to Proto-Elamite, that's also not major controversy. But when they say Aryans are possible that moved into India 2,100 years back, that means then it's a controversy. That's because the the controversial thought originate from the view that all over India, Indian culture is synonymous with Vedic culture or Aryan culture. So that's wrong. That's clearly wrong. As evidences, genetic evidence, archaeological evidence. So horses strengthen Harappan, and no Harappan seal has horse on it, although there are other animals, tiger, peacock, bull, cock, etc. Rigvedic gods, Asin, horsemen, Ushas, Agni. Many references to horses in Rigveda. 3 claims for Harappans is Vedic. So now the claim is Harappans is Vedic. That's what Tony Joseph provided lots of evidences, not only genetics, archaeology. Like I say, it took 6 years, studied, researched, and wrote the paper and wrote the book. And he finally says, whatever the book, I am responsible for that, not the people I talked to. He talked to people who had contrarian thoughts also. Wooden chariot is difficult to find in this hot and humid. Archaeologically, it's not easy to find. Horse bone is found in Sirkota, dating back to 2100. This is a Harappan civilization, Indus Valley civilization. So Davalikar had this to say on Rigveda being clearly post-Harappan when he discussed the issue of the horses and the Vedas. If you are reading some novel, how do you date it? If there is a mention of a mobile phone, you will say it was written in the 20th century or so. Like that, there are 2 markers in Rigveda. One is the occurrence of horse, that is not that is later, is not found in Indus Valley. That is very important because that is later most favorite animals of Aryans. It played a role in religious beliefs. Secondly, Rigveda also talks about ayas, which clearly means copper, because when iron was discussed later, they had a new word, Krishna ayas. Krishna means black copper. So also some people mention that sidetrack here. I will finish in another 5 minutes or 10 minutes. That the Aryans are fair-skinned people, or stratification is based on color to some extent. That they all have gods dark skin. So as we see in the epilogue, this is not pure Aryans. There's always mixed people. And Elias Veda, in other words, post-state Harappan civilization. Vehicle burials at Chellaih. And so I'll come to the final conclusion or epilogue. Tony Joseph considers as a pizza analogy. He says it's a silly analogy, but it's nonetheless it's a thing that can describe. But Mr. Balakrishnan, of course, say rainforest. India is made of cultures similar to rainforest. The basic of the pizza is early Indians. Well, 65,000 years back, they came in. They were very successful. They outlived or outcompeted the Homo erectus all over India. So the genetic analysis as late as 2018, different people mentions that the ancient Indian DNA is found 40 to 60% in all of them. So they were very successful for almost 55,000 years. So after that, they're successful. Probably they were more successful in South also. There could be a parallel civilization South along with Harappan civilization. So it's possible when the Harappan civilization, so Indus Valley civilization declined, people moved south because they are already connection with this, and they bypassed the central region. The so-called Aryan people were living. So they moved to east, and so that's possible. That available evidence suggests that But the ancient Sanskrit, it didn't go outside. It developed. The Aryans or steppe, the farmer steppe pastoralists came into India 2,100 years ago. But the endogamy, the caste system, endogamy, started only 1000 AD. So 2000 years, there are a lot of mixing going on. So what happened to, I don't want to go into the details of Rigveda, Aryabhata, all those things. But mainly what I'm trying to say is, even though there could be a philosophy of hierarchy and woman suppression, because Tony Joseph says women were not talked to by Sanskrit. They're not supposed to talk to women in Sanskrit. That itself, the discrimination started right there and still going on. We can't blame one caste for this situation, but everybody accepted it. Everybody had thought that somebody is below them, so that is so convenient. So and the language itself, Sanskrit itself developed further and further, and later Rigvedic had more Dravidian words. So that itself, I think, evolved with a mix of people, intellectuals together. And even the Buddha originated, Mahavira, the Jain religion, Asivagam, they are originated there in response to the hierarchy, the sacrifice, animal sacrifice, lots of hearts, dog sacrifice against this, or somehow overall in India, the idea of hierarchy and caste system, endogamy, was successful. And this Buddhistic ideology, all are, doesn't matter, all are equal, regardless of place, country. So it's the first missionary, almost 440 million people are following Buddhistic religion. And so that's going on. Why Buddhism declined in India is it's a long story. And finally, in Tamil, they famously say the Prananuru, Yadum Ure, Yavarum Kelil. We all are related. He concludes, all are migrants, all are mixed. So that's a take-home message. And to moving on further, Thidum Nandrum Pirar Taravara. So good or bad cannot be brought by outside others. That's true for the species as a whole, more than an individual, because the human species is going forward as a globally, as so many challenges: climate crisis, war, still racial inequality, disagreement between nations, ideological split. We all have to come together, and this kind of work, Tony Joseph, of incredible work for 6 years of hard work on this. We have to read the book, discuss that, and spread the word. Be scientific analysis that genetically we are we have basically the same people. Very little differences, and I will stop at that. Thank you for your attention.
Yeah, can you please stop sharing so that we can see the participants' faces? Yeah. யாருக்கு கேள்வி இருக்கோ நீங்க கேட்கலாம். உமா, நீங்க கையோத்தி இருக்கீங்க, நீங்க சொல்லலாம் உங்களோட கேள்வி சொல்லுங்க.
நன்றிங்க ஐயா. மிக பயனுள்ள ஒரு ஒரு உரையை எங்களுக்கு கொடுத்துருக்கீங்க. மிக்க நன்றி அரசு ஐயா. எனக்கு I have 3 questions. My first question is, you said something about American gypsies and European Roma in the beginning of the presentation. I'm just curious to know about who these American gypsies are. Were they from Central America or from North America? That's my first question. And my second question is, like, I understand that Yamnaya people brought horses into India after the decline of Harappan culture. So can we say that we are the proud traders, and before them, we were there with our water buffaloes and we traded and did all those things. Horses came into later part. That's my, can we say that? And my third question is, like Tony Joseph states that 75% of Indians speak Indo-European language, and whereas Dravidian language are spoken by 20% of Indians. How far the data is precise? That's the third question I have.
Roma, the people that he talks about, first of all, from India, the Aryan people migrated out and populated Europe and all to era future, because the Gypsies and Roma people only have some Indian gene, that haploid group of typical for Aryan. So that happens dating to 1500 BC. By the time the settlement is done, 2100 AC people are coming, and only very small population in Europe. Second, Yemenians, they're always nomadic cultures. That because that steppe pastoralist, and there's some climate crisis. Climate crisis when Harappan Mohenjo-daro was declining is because climate crisis. So that happened globally, all over the world. That may happen in the north also. That they need to move, but that perhaps prompted them to horse, a carriage, and language, and fast moving. They have to move fast, or else they will die. By the time they're settled civilization, they have water. Their water management is excellent, and they built cities that we all know, the bricks, and their streets are very good, and common bath, and even the dustbins are kept. And business, they traded with Mesopotamia. Of course, they took sites and all. And Meluha these people are called Meluhas. And 70 to 75% to 25% seems to be, now approximately it seems to be right. This is again based on genetic law. First, we understand all of us are mixed. All of us have all the genes, early genes, Harappan genes, and Aryan genes. Okay, so different, slightly level is more. He says the Brahmins have twice the DNA, and scheduled castes have. So they have DNA. Scheduled castes is not non-Aryan or something. They're also mixed. So I think that's fairly. What he says is this nomadic, and Sanskrit itself, the central region is considered as a real Vedic and things. Even the slightly periphery region are Yadavas and miniature. They call them miniatures, not Vedic or very hierarchical, very religious, and of course more sacrificing animals and things like that. It made a switch. The Brahmin people now abandoned the non-vegetarian, moved to vegetarianism, and vice versa. So lots of cultural changes happened. Okay, sorry, long answer.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah, thank you.
முத்தரசனையா நீங்க உங்களோட கருத்துக்கள் சொல்லுங்க.
Okay, to Uma's first question, Government of India's statistics is 78% Indo-Aryan language, and 19%, I think, 19% is Dravidian languages, 1% is Tibeto-Burman, and 1% is the Eastern one. So the remaining 1% is everything else. So that's quite accurate. 75% is quite accurate. The reason why I put my hand up is to provide a little bit more comments on the slide you had, Arasu, on similarity between the migration of steppe people into Europe and the same people coming into South Asia. The difference is when they moved to Europe, there were no cities there. There was no city civilization. They were just maybe farmers and they were hunter-gatherers. But when they came into India, there was already a city civilization, Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and about 6-7 cities. And of course, that had fallen, that had receded. but those city people had migrated east and south. And so the difference between these two were these two migration is, one is coming into a place where there's a very highly civilized people being present versus people going to Europe where such a civilization did not exist. And the evidence for that is, for example, articulated by Southward's work of Dravidian languages being blended with, for example, Panini Sanskrit has many Dravidian language features, right? And in fact, George Hart has written a very pivotal paper on this area, worthwhile looking into. And of course, if you have read Peggy Mohan's work, you'll see this influence of Dravidian languages on Vedic Sanskrit, which gave rise to Panini Sanskrit. And secondly, what some scholars have called the social linguistic features of Dravidian languages present in Northern languages. I'll put it very simply. And that type of a thing did not exist in Europe. So the migration into India is very, rather quite different in that sense compared to the migration to Europe. On the other hand, the way it is similar is the incoming folks from steppe dominated the political scene, and they do that in India. It's very obvious. They dominated Europe, and that is obvious. And so in that sense, the domination characteristic of that particular culture, you can see that in India also. So these are the two important things that I thought I would point out. And finally, before I go away, you had shown a pathway of one map, Yamna people going east and then coming back into India. At the bottom, it said the actual path of trajectory to South Asia is not known. That's because that map is prior to 2017. Now we know the path that they came via Hindu Kush, not via Iranian Peninsula, which was the thought, overriding thought prior to 2017. I'll stop there.
Okay, that's very, very good insightful comments, Professor Rajmutarasan. Actually, what my thinking is, even though a lot of Harappan people of the decline didn't go to central region, I think in a 2,000 years span, they could have some integration also. Of course, more in south and east, not as much in the central region. That because of the words, Dravidian language, even the Sanskrit formation, but maybe they brought some rituals and the origin of caste system. They together, I guess, they invented. It's not in Iran or anything like that. So that's one thing. And second thing is, they were initially, of course, a lot of people believed that the incoming Aryans basically destroyed the industrialized civilization, and that's why it's gone. Now it's so much evidence not for that. Even though that's not the cause, when the when the decline of Harappans, they moved, still there were some confrontations. And Rigveda mentions that their phallic they are destroyed. They're even now they can show that. I think some of the regions clearly show the combat or and also the mention of this in later Vedic text and heart burials. And there was a tumultuous period. And of course, it's not, he clearly states that not Aryans coming from Central Asia and Hindu Kush coming in brought the Sanskrit or brought the caste system. No, it evolved in India, central part of India. That is, of course, contributed by local Indians also. Of course, that dominant theory, dominant concept was advantageous to majority of the people. Somebody is below, and it was given a religious sanction. That's what I think. Please, Mani.
One of the things that was fascinating to me about Tony Joseph's comment is that the Aryans are considered to be the last migrants We know for a fact that there were multiple invasions after the Aryans into India, during the historical period. Why are they the last migrants, and why isn't there any other evidence of the later invaders?
Excellent question. I'm sure you know the answer. I think that's brilliantly put. This Aryans, genetically, in all over India, we can see ancient Indians who came in 65,000 years back, and Harappans are also the Zagros Mountains agriculturists formed that mix ancient South Indians and North Indians, and of course, the Aryans, they dominate, they're mobile people. They're also all over India. Of course, some region is more, some region less. But like Mani says, after that, so many, Alexander came in, Muslim invaders came in, British people came in, Portuguese came in, and they have the cultural impact. But genetically, that very minuscule, that influence is minuscule. Please comment on that.
Well, the thought that I was thinking about was linguists say, in fact, Tony Joseph's chapter 3 or 4 says this, the language being adopted being Vedic Sanskrit, so on, is because the number of people who came in was large, huge. So large movement of people came with the so-called steppe people. That was probably not the case, I'm now guessing, with respect to the Islamic people. And you look at the genetic evidence in terms of, for example, J2, which would be typically Mid-Eastern or more of Islamic type of a heritage, is not as high in India. You find some in Kerala at a reasonable proportion. In Gujarat, it's about a few percent, but most of India, it is really tiny. Genetically, that the population was not huge. The people, they might have come at a rate of maybe few 100,000. On the other hand, the steppe people came in the orders of, probably in the orders of million. You're talking about 3,500 years ago. So the population movement was much larger, looks like it. And I think Tony Joseph describes it as 2000 BCE to 1000 BCE, about over a 1,000-year period. There was a big movement of people. There were conflicts, although you can't call it invasion, because Rig Veda clearly describes prayers to Indra to defeat the Dasayus who are within walled cities. So that is well articulated in Rig Veda. So there were conflicts, but the conflict was not when the Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and other associated cities were fully functional, but it was with smaller settlements that existed subsequent to the decay of the Harappan civilization.
But one point I would like to make, I think, again, this is a conjecture. Buddhism, Jainism, Asivanism all started 500 BC to 300 BC. So the Aryans' concept of hierarchy or purity of whatever it was there in response to that, to counter that, what Buddhism, Jainism, Asivanism evolved. And there are enough followers in India, so that the missionary like zeal, that's what he says. And they went all over the world, including China, Southeast Asia, Japan, all the way to Japan. But in India, they were not able to succeed. So that, I don't know what's the reason, but among the both systems, among both the system, they competed. Obviously, there are some advantages of the Vedic culture or Sanskrit provided the people, and they survived. And even though the periphery languages are called Milecha Bhasa, that's the Indo-European languages too. See, purity of Sanskrit, the concept of, I think that going on, even though the endogamy, the mixing of between people, the genetic evidence was observed 1000 AD or after that. by carbon dating, or it clearly say that much centuries before that, there was not endogamy, but ideological conflict was going on for several centuries. I think so.
Okay, thank you.
If I may remark just briefly about this casteism, etc., Professor V.S. Rajam has written a research article of articulating very carefully how casteism is not present. She uses the Sangam literature and a little bit later to denote this, and so something to keep in mind. On the other hand, there appears to be a definition, or the Varna system is present in Rig Veda, as I recall, and so it might have come with them. And there are some scholars who believe the rise of Jainism was really to neutralize this type of thinking of hierarchical structure in a society, stratified structure in society. So, and of course, it takes you into very ancient times. And so that's a place where one needs to look into. And of course, if you look into the literature, Manusmriti, as we have it, is in so-called pristine Sanskrit, which would mean it belongs to Gupta period. But apparently there were many Manusmritis prior to that, from going back to ancient times. None of that is available, and it's not uncommon in ancient times to take somebody's work and add something to it and call it your work and then keep doing that. That's not an uncommon practice. And so the Manusmriti that we have that is available to us may have strands of very ancient version and also more modern version belonging to Gupta period. So the idea of the origin of caste and stratified or other structure to a society is really an open topic. It is not
Yes,
a determined topic, but it's worthwhile discussing it at some point in time.
Right. The conflict between the two ideologies, open, all are similar across the land, people are people. Even Magadha and Maurya kings were Buddhist, Jainists. They were in conflict with this. So as powerful kings, they embraced Buddhism, Jainism, Asivism, in opposed to the hierarchical caste system. So that is obvious. And also the people who moved south, that's I think there's already some civilization existed in the south, and women, for example, in Sangam literature, women poets are there, even more number than even the present day. That has to be taken into account, and they were in powerful positions. And
not only in Sangam literature, but also in Bhakti literature too.
Okay, Bhakti literature too.
So
and
that tradition continued.
Yes, yes. The other thing one last thing I want to say is the caste system. Women do not belong to any caste; they're outcasts. In our marriage invitations, even in today, not in cities, the male, the caste name behind only the male will be mentioned. Behind the woman name, no caste. So then that still continues. That system that woman is a man's possession, and that still is going on. The tussle, and South is, of course, comparatively better.
There is one comment that I want to add. I've discussed this with both Dr. Rajam and Dr. Hart. Dr. Hart points out quite often that this hierarchical system, specifically the fourfold Varna and the outcast, is completely absent in other Indo-European societies. It is not there among the Iranians. It is certainly not there among the Europeans. And he suspected and that's a controversial thing, that the Indo-Aryans adapted it largely from the Dravidian society, that the fourfold and the untouchability, all of that probably came from the Tamil or Dravidian culture. And of course, Dr. Rajam refutes that in her papers. But it is fascinating that, yes, it is true. The Greeks and the Romans and the Persians, they all had warriors, priests, and merchants, but not the Shudras. And the same thing is true of other Indo-European societies. So why is it that the Indo-Aryan society alone evolved the fourfold society and the untouchables? That's possibly because, like Tony Joseph mentions and Dr. Mutharsan repeatedly points out, Indo-Aryans encountered established civilization. So they had to have some sort of a negotiation with this existing civilization, and those who adapted to the new order, okay, were integrated at various levels. And, Dr. Mutharsan, do you have any comments?
The comment I would add is this is purely a hypothetical response. The people that the steppe people met in India were dark-skinned, as opposed to them being light-skinned. And I think that might have been the source of the difference, because the references to the original people of India that you see in Rig Veda as dasas, meaning low class, dasayus, meaning people belonging to a lower class, had that strand of thought process behind I'm superior than you type of a thing. And that's purely a hypothetical answer, a hypothetical situation. On the other hand, when they went into Europe, they were already light-skinned because they had been there for a long time. And so that type of a difference didn't occur, is my view.
I have
somebody else who has a hand raised.
I have a comment before Sridharan take the question of Sridharan. He talks about China, compare Chinese population and Indian population. He says, Tony Joseph in his book mentions that China has a large population. People mix Hans and everywhere and homogenetic population. India, because of 2000 years of endogamy, he has large number of smaller population. That's not good for everybody's talent to be useful for the society. Even in a small village, they have groups. So each group for itself, and they cannot unite to bigger group. He says there's a big chain on the leg, and it has to go. India has Sanskrit is a great language, and that's no question about it. And he says that that system, caste system, somehow I don't know where it came from. It has to be abolished for us to compete with countries like China with a homogeneous population. At least languages are there, but at least caste, that lower caste, upper caste, that means you cannot get the best of all of your citizens. Sridhar, Jagdishan, solunga.
I had a question on that beaker culture. Yes, in one of your slides, you mentioned the beaker culture.
Right.
And is that for the burial thing, or is it something?
Right. அது என்ன பீக்கர் இன்வெர்டட் பெல் இருக்குல்ல, மணி அடிக்கிறது இல்ல, அது அப்படியே என்ன மேல விரிவா இருக்கும், கீழே குறுகி இருக்கும். அந்த பாத்திரம் வந்து கிடைச்சிருக்கு. அந்த கிடைச்சிற இடத்துல அவங்க பெல்வேர் சொல்றாங்க. அவ்வளவுதான்.
If I may add to that remark, the ancient cultures, they gave names based on the kind of archaeological residues they left behind. And so the type of pottery was associated with that particular culture. And that's how that name came about.
A basic question, like what kind of food culture they had that day?
யாருங்க? Who?
The kind of food they had during that.
Oh. So, any comment? I guess the temperature, the cold climate, or the climate, and the grains, or the agriculture, whatever they can plant, and the crops. Even China has contributed. Eastern Asia contributed a lot to Indian food habits, and so that's based on the climate.
Thank you.
வேற யாருக்காவது கேள்வி இருந்தா நீங்க கேட்கலாம்.
I have one last question.
சுந்தர் சோழன் கையை வச்சிருக்கேன். சொல்லுங்க.
நன்றி. இந்த உங்களுடைய உரை ரொம்ப சிறப்பா இருந்தது. ஒரே ஒரு விஷயம் மட்டும் நான் சொல்லணும்னு பார்த்தேன். இந்த குதிரையினுடைய இது ஹார்ஸ் ரிமைன்ஸ் பத்தி நீங்க குறிப்பிட்டீங்க, சுருக்கோட்டுதா என்ற இடத்துல அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டு அதுல மட்டும் ஒரே ஒரு கரெக்ஷனுக்காக, இப்ப இந்த குதிரைன்னு சொல்ல போகும்போது இந்த ஈக்வஸ் கேபலஸ் அப்படிங்கிற அந்த வெரைட்டி தான் நம்ம பேசுறோம். குறிப்பா ஆரியர்களுக்கு பத்தி பேச போகும்போது அந்த வெரைட்டியா சேர்ந்த அந்த குதிரையை தான் வந்து இந்த தேர்கள் இழுப்பதற்கும் எல்லாத்துக்கும் பயன்படுத்திக்கிறாங்க அப்படின்றது வருது. இன்ஃபேக்ட் ஆரியர்கள் பார்த்தோன்னா 2 மார்க்கர்ஸ் என்னன்னு பார்த்தோம்னா குதிரைகளும் தேர்களும் அப்படின்றத சொல்றோம். அதனால வந்து அதுல ஒரு கன்ஃபியூஷன் வேண்டாமேன்ட்டு இந்த சுருக்கோட்டுதால் கிடைச்சது வந்து குதிரைன்னு சொல்லப்பட்டது வந்து முதல்ல ஒரு அந்த ஆய்வாளர் சொன்னது வந்து பின்னாடி அதை மறுத்திருக்கிறாங்க. அது வந்து என்னன்னு சொல்லியிருக்கிறாங்கன்னு சொன்னால் இது காட்டு கழுதை என்று சொல்லப்படக்கூடிய ஓனைச்சர், அது குதிரை கிடையாது, ஈக்வஸ் கேபலஸ் கிடையாது அப்படின்னு சொல்லிட்டாங்க. சோ அதுல வந்து அதுல தவறா பதிவிடக்கூடாதுன்றதுக்காக மட்டும்தான் அதை சொல்றேன், வேற ஒன்றும் இல்லை. முதலாவது குதிரையினுடைய சான்றுகள் கிடைச்சதுங்கிறது வந்து பிறக் அப்படிங்கிற இடத்துல கிட்டத்தட்ட 1800 கிமு ஆண்டுல கிடைச்சது அப்படின்ற மாதிரி சொல்றேன். அங்கதான் வந்து சுடுமண் குதிரை வடிவங்களும் கிடைச்சிருக்கு, குதிரையினுடைய எலும்புகளும் கிடைச்சிருக்கு. இன்கான்ட்ரவர்ஷியல் எவிடன்ஸ் ஆஃப் ஹார்ஸ் ரிமைன்ஸ் இன் இந்தியன் சப்கான்டினென்ட் என்று சொன்னால் அதுதான். சுர்கோட்டதா வந்து நிச்சயமா வந்து குதிரையினுடைய இதுகள் கிடையாது. ஜஸ்ட் ஒரு தவறா பதிவாகக்கூடாதுன்றதுக்காக சொல்றேன், மற்றபடி வேற ஒன்றும்.
நன்றி.
நீங்க
ஒரே ஒரு கேள்விதாங்க ஐயா. இது இந்த டிராவிடியன் லாங்குவேஜஸ் பத்தி தான் அகைன். இது இந்த டாபிக் சம்பந்தமா என்னன்னு எனக்கு தெரியல. இப்போ இந்த நம்ம இந்த டிராவிடியன் ஸ்டாக்ஸ் எங்கெல்லாம் இருக்காங்க, அந்த ட்ரைபல் பீப்புள் வந்து எங்கெல்லாம் இருக்காங்க நம்ம இந்தியாவில் அப்படிங்கிறதுக்கு ஏதாவது மேப்போ இல்லை அந்த மாதிரி ஏதாவது டேட்டா இருக்குங்களா? ஸோ தட் அவங்க பேசுகிற லாங்குவேஜஸ் எல்லாம் நம்ம டிராவிடியன் லாங்குவேஜ் பேசக்கூடிய பழங்குடியினர் அவங்க எங்கெல்லாம் இருக்காங்க அப்படின்னு தெரிஞ்சுக்கிறதுக்கு வந்து இந்தியாவில் எந்தெந்த இடத்துல இருக்காங்க, இட் குட் பி நார்த்தில் இருக்கலாம், சவுத்தில் இருக்கலாம், அந்த மாதிரி இருக்கிறதுக்கு ஏதாவது நமக்கு டு வி ஹாவ் எனி டேட்டா அப்படின்னு தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னு நினைக்கிறேங்க ஐயா.
இருக்குமா?
அது சொல்றதுக்கு முன்னாடி ஒரு சின்னதுமா டோனி ஜோசப் சொல்றாரு அபவுட் தி ஆதிவாசி நம்ம இந்தியாவில் இருக்கிறவங்க வந்து அது அதே மாதிரி ஹாரப்பா இதுவே அந்த டான்சிங் கேர்ள் பிக்சர் எல்லாம் சொல்றாரு. சொன்ன உடனே அதுக்கு என்ன சொல்றாருன்னா, அந்த மாதிரி ஆதிவாசிகள்லாம் என்னமோ நம்ம அவங்க வெர்சஸ் நம்ம என்னமோ உயர்ந்தவள் மாதிரியும் அவங்க ஆதி அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரியும் இருந்தது. இப்ப ஜெனட்டிக்கலி அப்படிங்கிறார், தே ஆர் அஸ். அதனால ஒண்ணும் ஒதுக்கல. அது அந்த இந்த பொண்ணு கூட அந்த டான்சிங் கேர்ள் கூட ரொம்ப அப்பயே அந்த உமன் ஒரு டிக்னிஃபைடா ஒரு மெஜஸ்டிக்கா அந்த பொண்ணே வந்து அது ஒரு ஆதிவாசியா கூட இருந்துக்கலாங்கிற மாதிரி. ஆதிவாசிங்க தான் அவங்க வாழ்ற இடம் ஒழிய அவங்க எல்லா வகையிலையும் எந்த வகையிலையும் குறைஞ்சவங்க கிடையாது. சுந்தர் சொல்.
ஐயா, என்னோட கேள்வி வந்து இந்த இந்த மொழியை டிராவிடியன் லாங்குவேஜ் அவங்க இன்னும் உயிரோட வச்சிருக்காங்க, அதை தேடி எடுக்கிறதுக்கு அதை கனெக்ட் பண்றதுக்கு ஏதாவது மேப்ஸ் ஏதாவது அவைலபிளா? அதாவது அந்த ட்ரைபல் பீப்புள் இன்னுமே உயிர்ப்போட வச்சிருக்காங்க, அவங்கெல்லாம் நம்மளை விட ரொம்ப மிக உயர்ந்த விஷயங்களெல்லாம் வேர்பலா பேசிட்டு இருக்காங்க இன்னமும் அப்படின்னு சொல்றாங்க. ஸோ அந்த மாதிரி உள்ளவங்களோட நம்ம அவங்கள பத்தி தெரிஞ்சுக்கிறதுக்கு ஏதாவது நமக்கு விழுமியங்கள் நம்ம கிட்ட இருக்கா அப்படின்னு பார்க்கணும் ஐயா. அதை தான் கேட்கிறேன் நான்.
நல்ல பார்க்கணும். ஐயா கையை எடுத்திருக்காங்க சுந்தர சோழன்.
இல்ல, அவர் முதல்ல உயர்த்தினதான் நினைக்கிறேன். வேற யாருக்காவது கேள்விகள் இருக்கா, இல்ல கருத்துக்கள் ஏதாவது சொல்லணும்னு விரும்புனீங்கன்னா இருக்கேன்.
உமாவுடைய கேள்விக்கு வந்து ஆந்த்ரோபாலஜிக்கல் சொசைட்டி ஆஃப் இந்தியான்னு கல்கட்டாவில் இருக்குது. அவங்க பப்ளிஷ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க என்னென்ன டிஃப்ரெண்ட் கம்யூனிட்டிஸ், அது ஒரு ஃபுல் பாப்புலேஷன் டேட்டா, அவங்க லாங்குவேஜ் டேட்டா, அவங்களுடைய ஜெனடிக் ஹெரிட்டேஜ் டேட்டா. அது வந்து 2022 தான் அந்த ஃபுல் பப்ளிஷ் பண்ணாங்க. பட் அவங்க நிறைய பேப்பர்ஸ் ப்ரொடியூஸ் பண்ணியிருக்காங்க. இந்த ஊரில் இத்தனை பேர் இருக்காங்க, இவங்க இந்த மாதிரி லாங்குவேஜ் பேசுகிறாங்க அப்படின்ற விஷயம் இருக்குது. இது ரீசண்டாக நான் பார்த்தது பீகாரில் வந்து அங்கே வந்து யூ ஹாவ் இண்டோ ஆரியன் லாங்குவேஜ், பட் யூ ஆல்சோ ஹேவ் டிரிவிடியன் லாங்குவேஜ். You also have East Asian language, the from Cambodia அந்த பக்கத்துல இருந்து வந்த லாங்குவேஜ். ஸோ அது மூணும் அந்த அந்த ஸ்டேட்டில் தான் இருக்குது. மற்ற ஸ்டேட்டில் 2 இருக்கும் அல்லது 1 இருக்கும். தமிழ்நாட்டில் இந்த டிரிவிடியன் லாங்குவேஜ் மட்டும் தான் இருக்கு இல்லையா? அங்கே அந்த மாதிரி ஒரு பிளெண்டட் இதாக இருக்குது பீகார். அது ஒரு தட்ஸ் அன் இன்ட்ரெஸ்டிங் பிளேஸ் டு லுக் அட். பட் அந்த பேப்பர்ஸ்லாம் இருக்குமா? இட் இஸ் பப்ளிஷ்ட். அதெல்லாம் தேடி கண்டுபிடிக்கணும். பட் இட்ஸ் அந்த நீங்க கேட்குற விஷயம் the data is available.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
இது 2011 census of India. அது வந்து it's on the website. It's a huge database. You can go to Madhya Pradesh and look at all the languages. கிட்டத்தட்ட 15 languages are spoken in Madhya Pradesh. Something like about 7-8 languages spoken in Gujarat. அது என்ன எத்தனை பேர் அதை பேசுறாங்கன்றது அந்த அந்த இன்ஃபர்மேஷன் அங்கே இருக்கு. If you want, I'll try to dig up that website and send you that link.
Thank you, sir.
It's not an HTML format. You have to download an Excel spreadsheet.
சரிங்க ஐயா. Yeah, I'll do that. Thank you.
Thank you. வேற யாருக்காவது ஏதாவது கேள்விகள், கருத்துக்கள்? ஏன்னா மேபி நம்ம இதை ஒரு பின்னூட்டம் கூட வச்சுக்கலாம். இது வந்து 4 வாரம் செஞ்சிருக்கோம். இதுல அடுத்து எப்படி கொண்டு போகலாம் அப்படின்றதையும் நம்ம விவாதிக்கலாம்னு நினைக்கிறேன். அடுத்த வாரம் நமக்கு வந்து Mr. Tony Joseph will be with us addressing the Q&A, so please make use of it. But from audience perspective also, please share your feedback on how is this going and how can be taken forward.
I want to join the study group, the WhatsApp group.
Share the WhatsApp number they can.
Yeah.
இவங்க வந்து கொடுத்திருக்காங்க. சுபா காரைக்குடி. சேத்தன்.
Yeah. I have one thing like the question, the Dravidian languages particular. Last time sir சொன்ன மாதிரி அந்த இதுல அந்தமான் நிக்கோபார் ஐலண்ட்ஸ் ஜார்வான்ற லாங்குவேஜ் இன்னும் அப்படியே உயிரோட இருக்குதுன்னு சொல்றேன்.
அது வந்து ஏர்லி இந்தியன்ஸுடைய இம்பாக்ட் அது இன்னும் கொஞ்சம் தனியா அவங்க இருக்கலாம்ங்கிற ஜெனடிக் எவிடன்ஸ் ஓரளவுக்கு சொல்றாங்க.
ஓகே, தேங்க்ஸ்.
அந்த மாதிரி ட்ரைப்ஸ்லயுமே வந்து நம்ம எப்படி வந்து ஜென்ரல் பப்ளிக் பிரிக்கிறோமோ, இண்டோ ஆரியன், டிராவிடியன், ஆஸ்ட்ரோ ஏஷியாட்டிக், திபெத்தியன்ற மாதிரி பிரிக்கிறோமோ, அதே மாதிரி ட்ரைப்ஸ்லயுமே the variety of they classify the tribes according to those 4 languages and there are many tribes called.
அத பத்தி நிறைய தெரிஞ்சுக்கணும்னு ஆசை. அது யாராவது ஒரு மேப்போ எடுத்து
I am reading a book.
இருக்குமா? அந்த data is available.
Professor
எனக்கு கேள்வி என்ன தெரியுமா? Adivasis who speak Indo-Aryan language.
They do?
I mean, I cannot put that together. நிறைய இருக்காங்க.
Okay, that's something new to me.
There are many tribal communities that speak Indo-Aryan language.
Okay.
அது எப்படி வந்ததுன்னு பாருங்க, நீங்க யோசிச்சு பாருங்க. இதுக்கு this is my theory. Now Monday I shared the data, genetic data of tribals from Gujarat. Tribals from Gujarat have almost about nearly 1/4 of them have belonged to R1A.
Okay.
So you can say 1/4 of them have paternal lineage which is Indo-Aryan. So அது வழியா தான் வந்து இருக்க முடியும். That will be my guess. But it's a worthwhile thinking about it. How is it possible that they adopted a different language, although they were tribal communities? In the languages, there is some new things to be learned. I'm very interested in that. And the person who has done a lot of work in this area is Peggy Mohan from University of West Indies. Her work is really outstanding, and it's worthwhile reading her book.
கண்டிப்பாங்க ஐயா. நம்மளுடைய குழுமத்துல ஷேர் பண்ணுங்க. we will
அந்த லிங்க் போட்டிருந்தா அவங்களுடைய லெக்சர் ஒரு கொஸ்டின் அண்ட் ஆன்சர் செஷன். பட் her book is much more scientifically written. Tony Joseph makes in his third chapter, the chapter that I reviewed, 2000 years ago, people in Maharashtra and Gujarat spoke Dravidian language. But now they don't speak Dravidian language. இல்லைங்களா?
அது அழிவுக்கு
So அந்த transition எப்படி ஆச்சு அப்படின்ற கேள்வி வந்து how do you try to figure that out?
ராஜா பேசுங்க ப்ளீஸ்.
நன்றிங்க ஐயா. நீங்க ட்ரைபல்ஸ் பத்தி பேசும்போது இலங்கையில இருக்க வெட்டா ட்ரைபல்ஸ் அவங்க எந்த கேட்டகரியில வருவாங்க? அவங்க மொழி வந்து எந்த விதமான மொழி? அது டிராவிடியனா இல்ல ப்ரீ டிராவிடியனா இல்ல ஆஸ்ட்ரோ ஏசியாட்டிக்கா? அதை பத்தி கொஞ்சம் விளக்க முடியுமா ஐயா? இலங்கையில இருக்க வெட்டா ட்ரைபல்ஸ்.
ரைட். அது பாசிங்ல சொல்ற நான் 2-3 தடவை படிச்சேன். அந்த இதையும் ஆடிபிளும் கேட்டேங்க. அது ஏர்லி இந்தியன்ஸ் வந்து அதுல அவங்க வெரி சக்சஸ்ஃபுல். தேவர் ஆல் ஓவர் இந்தியா. தே குட் ஹவ் கான் டு தே ஆர் இன் ஸ்ரீலங்கா. அதுல போயிருக்கலாம். அப்கோர்ஸ் சிங்களவர்கள் வந்து லேட்டர் ஒரியால் வந்து போனாங்க. இந்த மாதிரி எனி டிஎன்ஏ எவிடன்ஸ் மணி.
Yeah, genetically they're very close to Tamils.
Okay.
There's a fair number of some haplogroup C, F,
Sinhalese.
வேடவர்கள் இவங்க சொல்றது வேடவர்கள்ல சொல்றாங்கன்னு நினைக்கிறேன்.
Right.
வேடவர்கள் வந்து தமிழ் தான், இன்னைக்குமே தமிழ் தான் பேசிட்டு இருக்காங்க. அவங்க சிங்களீஸ் பேஸ்.
சரி, முடிச்சலாம்.
நன்றிங்க ஐயா.
நன்றிங்க.
நன்றிங்க.
கட்டாயம் படிங்க. புத்தகத்துல ரொம்ப டீட்டெயிலா சொல்றாரு.
அப்ப முறையா வந்து நன்றி உரை சொல்லிடலாம். நன்றி. இந்த இது வந்து நாங்க ஐயா அரசை அம்மா ஆரம்பத்துல சொன்ன மாதிரிதான் நம்ம வந்து we had taken it up like saying ஏதாவது வந்து we have to take the journey of civilization to the next step அப்படின்ற அந்த ரீடிங் குரூப்ல இருந்து அடுத்த கட்டத்துக்கு தான் இது மூவ் ஆனது. அப்படி இருக்கும் போது இதை எப்படி பேசலாம், எப்படி எடுத்துட்டு போலாம், அதுவும் வந்து ஒரு நூற்றாண்டு விழா நடந்துகிட்டு இருக்கு. அதுல வந்து நம்மளோட பங்களிப்பு என்ன இருக்கலாம் அப்படின்றத வந்து பேசிட்டு இருக்கும் போதுதான் வந்து சிலது வந்து நாங்க லெக்சர்ஸா வந்து அரேஞ்ச் ஆயிருந்தது. நான் ஆகஸ்ட்ல செப்டம்பர்ல நான் பேசினேன். நவம்பர்ல வந்து ராஜையா பேசினாங்க, ராஜமுத்தரசன் ஐயா. அதே மாதிரி தொடர்ந்து வந்து பண்ணிட்டு இருந்தோம். அடுத்த கட்டமா யோசிச்சதுதான் வந்து ஜெனட்டிக்ஸ். ஏன்னா ராஜமுத்தரசன் ஐயாவோட உரையில வந்து ஜெனட்டிக்ஸ் ஆஃப் பிரசன்ட் டே தமிழ்ஸ் அப்படின்றதா, ஜெனட்டிக் ஹெரிட்டேஜ் ஆஃப் கரண்ட் டே தமிழ்ஸ்ன்றதா பேசணும். அப்ப அதோட தொடர்ச்சியா வந்து தமிழ்ஸ் மட்டும் என்ன, இந்தியன்ஸ் ஃபுல்லா பார்க்கலாம் அப்படின்றதுதான் வந்து இந்த புக்கை வந்து ஒரு நல்ல ஒரு மேடையா எடுத்துக்கிட்டோம். இந்த புக்கை எடுத்துட்டு 4 வாரம் வந்து பண்ண போறோம் அப்படின்றத வந்து உறுதி செஞ்சுட்டு பங்கேற்பாளர் கொடுக்கும் போது எல்லாருமே நல்ல ஆர்வம் காட்டினீங்க. அதாவது வந்து இன்னைக்கும் வந்து 27 பேர் வந்து சேர்ந்துக்கிட்டாங்க. அது வந்து 4வது வாரம் குறையறதுக்கு நிறைய வாய்ப்புகள் இருக்கு. அது இல்ல வந்து பங்கேற்பாளர்கள் எல்லாருமே வந்து நிறைய வந்து அந்த ஆர்வம் தழுவாம வந்து குறையாம வந்து பங்கேற்றுக்கிட்டாங்க. அவங்க எல்லாருக்கும் வந்து ஒரு மிக்க நன்றி. அதே மாதிரி பேச்சாளர்களும் பார்த்தோம்னா 4 பேரும் வந்து எல்லாருமே வந்து ஃபுல் டைம் எம்ப்ளாயா தான் இருக்கும் ஒரு இடத்துல. ஆனாலும் வந்து எங்களோட நேரத்தை வந்து இதுக்காண்டி வந்து செலவழிச்சுட்டதுல நாங்க கத்துக்கிட்டதுதான் நிறைய நான் சொல்லுவேன். அட்லீஸ்ட் என்னோட தனிப்பட்ட இதுல பாத்தீங்கன்னா வந்து இது வந்து 4 வாரம் என்னை அறியாமலே நான் நிறைய கத்துக்கிட்டே இருக்கேன். அந்த கத்துக்கிட்டது வந்து நிறைய வந்து நடந்திருக்கு. இதை நாங்க உங்கள்கிட்டயும் வந்து கொண்டு வந்து சேர்த்திருப்போம் அப்படின்றது வந்து கட்டாயமா வந்து அதுல இருந்து எனக்கு எந்த கருத்து வேறுபாடும் இல்லை. கட்டாயமா உங்களுக்கு சேர்ந்திருக்கும்னு நினைக்கிறோம். அப்புறம் உங்களோட ஆர்வத்தையும் தூண்டி இருக்கும். அந்த விதத்துலதான் எல்லா பேச்சுகளும் அமைஞ்சிருந்தது. அதனால பேசிய 4 பேருக்கும் வந்து மிக்க நன்றி. அப்புறம் வந்து இந்த யூடியூப் சேனல்ல வந்து ரன் பண்ணும் போது வந்து நாங்க டாக்டர் சுந்தர் கணேசன் கேட்கும் போது அவர் வந்து எந்த ஒரு இதுவுமே சொல்லல. இஸ் த டைரக்டர் ஆஃப் RMR. எதுவுமே சொல்லாம நீங்க பண்ணிக்கோங்க அப்படின்ட்டாங்க. அதே மாதிரி சுப்புவும் வந்து எல்லா நேரமும் 4 வாரமும் தொடர்ந்து வந்து நம்மளுக்கு ஒத்துழைப்பு தந்து அதை யூடியூப் லைவும் பண்ணாங்க. அவங்களுக்கும் என்னோட நன்றியும் வணக்கமும். அதுக்கப்புறம் வந்து யாரையும் விட்டு போயிருந்ததுன்னா மன்னிச்சுக்கோங்க. ஆனா வந்து தொடர்ந்து இந்த ஆர்வத்தை வந்து நம்மளோட வாட்ஸ்அப் குழுமத்துல வந்து தொடர்ந்து இதை பத்தி பேசிட்டு இருக்கணும். ஏன்னா இதுல வந்து எங்களோட நோக்கம் என்னவா இருக்குன்னா, நம்ம வெறும் வந்து கேட்டதை மட்டும் பேசக்கூடாது. அதை ஒரு அறிவியல் முறையில வந்து அதை யோசிச்சு பார்க்கணும். அதுக்கு சரியான தரவுகள் வந்து இந்த குழுமத்துல வந்து பேசப்படணும். அதுதான் எங்களோட முக்கிய நோக்கம். அதை தொடர்ந்து வந்து நிறைய இந்த மாதிரி உரைகள் மட்டும் இல்லாம பரிமாற்றங்களும் அந்த மாதிரிதான் நடந்துகிட்டு இருக்கு. அதுலயும் வந்து உங்களோட தொடர்ந்து இந்த மாதிரி அறிவியல் விவாதங்கள், அதாவது வெறும் லிங்குவிஸ்டிக்கா இல்லாம, வெறும் லிட்ரேச்சரா இல்லாம, வெறும் ஹிஸ்டரியா இல்லாம, இது எல்லாமே வந்து ஒரு அறிவியல் பார்வையோட வந்து எடுத்துட்டு போறது ரொம்ப முக்கியம். இது அடுத்த தலைமுறைக்கும் வந்து ரொம்ப ரொம்ப முக்கியம். ஸோ இந்த ஒரு சிந்தனை மரபை வந்து இந்த குழு வந்து விதைக்க விரும்புது. அதை தொடர்ந்து செஞ்சுட்டு வரோம். உங்களோட ஒத்துழைப்புக்கு எல்லாருக்கும் நன்றி. நன்றி, வணக்கம். முடிச்சுக்கலாங்களா?